Hey everyone, it's Mike Andes, and you're listening to the Business Bootcamp Podcast. Today I'm going to be going over some material that many have asked me about, and I don't think I've ever made a full episode on, and it is about my online businesses, what I'm doing with the course, and what my suggestions are for you that are out there wanting to start a podcast or start an online course and start to generate money online. So today doesn't have a sponsor because I just want to have some straight talk with everyone and explain things about sponsors and all that sort of thing. So let's just jump right into the material. And the reason I'm doing this really today is because landscapebusinesscourse.com has got completely revamped. So you've heard me mention over the past few weeks and months that the revamp was coming. Well, it's finished now. It's 100% live. We're still working and editing and trying to change and improve the website, but it's basically finished and ready for more content and things like that. So landscapebusinesscourse.com, you can check it out and see the changes I've made. The old website was fine. I created the landing page, the sales page for the course on lead pages, and like this is the old site, and then basically it just linked to a WordPress site which was used to on the back end run the course. And it was okay, like the content was there, but it was pretty archaic. The design was horrible of the course. It was a lot of times people would have trouble logging in, like their password and stuff like that. If they forgot their password, it was kind of clunky trying to reset the password. And like when you click forget my password on the login page. So it was just clunky. It wasn't what I wanted it to be as far as just user experience, the UI of the whole interface. And so we changed it. It's much, much better now. And now it gives me the time, instead of trying to always be fixing people's accounts and fixing the website, it gives me time to actually add content, which I've been kind of lagging on the past few months, just because of the amount of new traffic had really broke the old website. So that is live today. So check it out, landscapebusinesscourse.com. I have some videos on there, and then you're going to hear me talk about something called Pro Plus today, and I'll explain what that is. But if you go to landscapebusinesscourse.com/ProPlus, PROPLUS, you will get all the details about that, and you can sign up if you like. But I'm going to kind of walk you through how you can start making money online. And no, I'm not going to become the guy that starts trying to show people how to make money online. This podcast will not go into that direction. I did not make this podcast to share about my online business or make an online business about online businesses. I am not about to do that. And so I will explain myself, but so if you're out there right now and you're like, hey, I want to share information, or I want to make money from a blog or a podcast or a YouTube channel or some other way, a lot of what I'm talking about today will be of interest to you. And before you turn me off and say, okay, this is not applicable to me, I'm a small business owner, etc., I want you to know this, and that is that everyone knows something valuable, and you know it better to an extent that's better than the general populace. So if you are literally in any niche, a market, any sort of industry, if you have a certain passion and you are into it to some level that is greater than the extent of the majority of the population, you have a platform and a base in which to grow an audience, and you should go out and share that information with other people. So, for instance, and we'll get into it, landscaping is something I've done for a long, long time. I understand the business, I understand the numbers, and I've been able to now create an online business around that passion, around that thing that I know enough about to teach other people. So if you would have talked to me several years ago, I'd been like, oh yeah, I've done it for a long time, I know a lot, but I don't feel like I could teach a lot. Well, this is the thing. Really, if you could sit down and talk to Joe Blow about your business or what you're passionate about, whether it be music or art or a certain type of sport, and you could talk about that subject for hours on end without stopping, and you would enjoy every single minute of it, is a really good chance you should share that information, because with the internet now, it's made it where you can really collaborate with people of like mind that enjoy the same things as you, that are willing to pay, in fact, to know and learn from you, and that's when it becomes a business. However, as we'll get into, I really do feel that if you're going to try to make money online, make sure it's something you're super passionate about. The reason I say that is because a lot of times, and this is far too often, this is why I don't let the channel become all about online businesses and the people who ask me about ebooks and things like that. Like, I usually respond to you privately and not so much on the podcast, because so often in the online business industry, it's pitched as a very fast way to make money, because the pitch is that the internet is super scalable and you can have thousands of course members, or you can have a massive audience very quickly. And it's very true. That is very possible, and that's the beauty of the internet. And yes, it does happen. There are YouTube channels that make get to 1 million subscribers within a year. There are podcasts that make tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars on sponsors. There are absolutely courses that make $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 the first day they start. That is all true. It happens. However, the far majority of online businesses, in my opinion, reflect very closely to the real world of business, in that they do grow slowly. They don't start off with a bang, and the ones that do start off with a bang, a lot of times fizzle out. And so, yes, the rate of growth is usually faster, but then I also believe that the rate of decline is much faster, because you can fall behind technology a lot easier online. So I really think it's funny how people look at online versus offline businesses. I think they're very, very similar. I think the internet just kind of compounds the effect of speed and timing and change within technology. So anyways, that being said, I think you should follow, if you're looking at something to spread the information that you know, to spread the passion that you have about a certain songs or a certain sport or a certain type of clothing or fashion, if you want to share that information, do it because you're passionate about it. It shouldn't be like, if you feel like you want to start a podcast, if it is going to feel like work to come home and talk about that subject into a microphone and edit it and upload it and answer people's questions, if that is going to feel like work to you, you should not do it. It should feel like, yes, you know it's work. Yes, it has to be done. However, you love it so much, it doesn't feel like work. And if you don't have that, you're probably going to get discouraged when a year goes by and you're not making the tens of thousands of dollars every day, and you're not making the mega millions that just is recurring revenue and is passive income into your bank account that you don't do anything about, and you have funnels and it all just happens and flows together and you make money and you just watch the account grow in size. Like, you will probably get disappointed. Like I said, it happens. And there are cases out there that are widely publicized and that most people would know about. If I mention people's names, you would probably know them. They are, like I said, they happen. I do not judge those people. I do not think that they are wrong or anything like that. It happens, and they are being successful. But for the far majority of people, they aren't going to see those kind of results right away. And so if you don't have the patience to slowly grow an audience, slowly grow the amount of people that you're in contact with, and then monetize them and actually create a business, if you get discouraged and right from the get-go you're expecting those big results, if you're not passionate about the subject, and if it seems like work to you, you'll eventually give up, because you'll start feeling like you're working and not making any money, which you will be for the first while. And so, like, when I started Business Bootcamp Podcast, it's been like over 4 years now, 4.5, almost, I think I got 4.5 years or something like that I have had this podcast. Let me think about it. Yeah, it's just over 4 years that I've had the podcast now. Landscape Business Course has been only the past year and a bit, year and a half. But Business Bootcamp Podcast started 4 years ago when I started my MBA and Augusta Lawn Care Services. This is when I started the podcast 4 years ago. And literally for the first year and a half, I didn't make any money from the podcast. I mean, like zero, nilch, nada, like no sponsorships, nothing, for the first year and a half. And that was probably the first, I'd have to look at it, but probably the first 60, 70, probably the first 70 to 80 episodes that first year, not a single penny came in. It wasn't until like late episode 90s that I got a sponsor. And so that first year and a half of putting all that time in and literally spending probably 20 to 40 hours a week just as it was starting out, answering people's questions. Sorry, take that back. So for the first year, I was probably only doing about 20 hours a week of answering people's questions. Now it's a lot more, but back then, the first year, the audience was small. Like literally, for some people, it just would get very discouraging to only to have 500, 600 people listening a day to your podcast. They would give up, and it's not like there's always a continual climb. Like there's lulls and then there's jumps, and so for the first few months, I probably had a max of 100 to 200 people listening a day, and then that jumps and slowly grows and grows and grows, and then you see like 5,000. I still remember the first day when I had 5,000 listeners listening to the podcast in one day. I was like, wow, that's amazing, and you just see the growth, right? And so, like I said, if you are wanting to get into online business and you're wanting to share your truth, you're wanting to talk about your passion, do it about something that you would do for free, and it'll seem like so much more liberating, and you will not quit after that first year and a half, before it gets monetizable. So I get a little bit worried when people jump into online business 100% for the money. Obviously, there's upside financially and monetarily, but when it's 100% that's the decision maker, I get worried because there's going to be times when it's hard. The starting process is not always as easy as it is pitched to be, and so I do believe you should get something that is going to feel like it's not working. So that being said, there's a few things that I would say if you're wanting to start a business. Like I said, podcast, vlog, any sort of a blog post, like a more text driven, online social media, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, whatever it is, whatever you are trying to get involved in, whether it's through text, written word, pictures, video, whatever it is, whatever, audio with podcast, whatever it is, I would say this, and that is, don't force the money. Let the money come to you. When I find a lot of online entrepreneurs that are trying to force the money side of the business, and they fail to realize that the reason they'll make money is because of an audience. Focus on building an audience first. Create an audience and then monetize down the road. And let the monetization, this is really key here. Let the method of monetization come to you. What I mean by that is develop an audience, and they will tell you what they're willing to pay for. So when I started Business Bootcamp Podcast, I wasn't thinking about how I was going to make money. I just knew I loved business. I wanted to answer people's questions. There was no podcast out there that was for small business owners that wasn't all about online business, and it was about like real like landscapers and cleaners and irrigation people and people that are building houses and the laundromat and the doctor and the dentist and the videographer and so many different I wanted a small business owner. That's what I wanted, who I wanted to talk to, and it was the people that I wanted to create a podcast for that would answer their questions and talk to real small business owners. And that's what I wanted. I had been looking for it, and that's really what happened with Landscape Business Course. Is I was looking for a course. I was looking for a landscaping course that would teach me the business side of the industry when I started my landscaping company. I couldn't find it, so I scratched my itch and created it later on down the road, a few years later. But when I started Business Bootcamp Podcast, I was scratching my own itch. I wanted to create a small business owners end-all be-all podcast where people can get their questions answered, and where they can hear the industries and other small business owners, what they're going through, and get different perspectives on how to start, grow, and save their company. And so I was solely focused for the first 2.5, 3 years, 100% on creating an audience and listening to what they wanted. So as time went on with Business Bootcamp Podcast, I noticed a couple different themes coming out. Number one was that people kept wanting to pay me for more access to me. So I would answer people's questions via email, a lot of times via audio note, because it was so much faster. I could do them while I was driving. I could record the answers to people's questions. Like I could read them and then record the audio and send it back to them. And so that was really popular. I was able to answer probably between 10 and 20 questions a day. And so I was creating an audience one by one by one. Like the growth pattern of the podcast and even the course, it's never been like a massive jump and then it was like a home run day or like overnight success. It's just been like one by one by one. And the reason for that is because I don't advertise, I don't market the podcast, I don't go on other people's podcasts and do interviews to try to promote the podcast. Like it's very much like the people that ask me questions, they listen, they ask me questions, I answer them, and then there's a loyalty and they stick with me for a long time. And so as I answer people's questions one by one by one, the audience began to grow one by one by one, and slowly I built up an audience. And so I started seeing these two themes. Number one is people kept asking to pay me for more access because I would answer their email and I would give them an answer, but then they wanted to dig deeper. They wanted to hop on the phone call. They wanted me to do a Skype conversation with their team, or they wanted me to, kind of do a Skype call a lot of times with their managers or their sales team. A couple times with people's online, like their online team, figuring out what works and things like that. So I kept getting that. So that was one recurring theme I saw in the audience, that people were wanting more access to me and were willing to pay for it. I wasn't asking for it. They were coming to me saying, "Hey, we want X, Y, and Z, and we're willing to pay so much money for it." And then number two theme I saw is that a lot of landscapers were asking me questions. Like 30-40% of the questions coming in were from landscapers. And it was because, obviously, I own a landscaping company and have for a long time. And a lot of the experiences and stories I tell on this podcast even relate to my landscaping company. So a lot of it's directly relatable for them. And so I started seeing this recurring theme. So number one, I saw people wanting more access to me and they were willing to pay for it, and without me soliciting that consultation fee. And then two was a lot of landscapers. So what I did is I was like, okay, there's two ways to grow an audience, or to monetize an audience, or a few different ways to monetize an audience. Number one, you can kind of get external funding. And how I look at that is like sponsors and affiliates. So I still do a little bit of sponsors. As you know, I have Gusto, and we've FreshBooks, and we've done TopTal, and there's a couple more coming on here in the next little bit, that GetFlight and some other companies that are hopping on. And we've had others. And so those are the sponsors. Those are like third-party outside income. You can have affiliates. So if you have something like a lot of traffic on a blog or website, you can have affiliate links. You can have even AdSense traffic from your website. In my opinion, that's all third-party money. So another company is basically piggybacking off of your audience, and you're cashing in on the audience basically, and you're getting money from someone else that wants to tap into your audience. And so that's great, and that's a stream of income. But what I wanted to do was focus on what my audience was wanting from me and then make the money there. So number one, like I said, was people wanted access, and number two, people wanted more landscaping content. So what I did a few years ago, or not a few years ago, it was about two and a half years ago, is I started giving more access to myself. So I started giving slots of time that people could have consultation with me once a week, a couple times a month, and then the least one was like monthly. They would have a video or phone conversation with myself, and I would do those in the evenings and on weekends and late at night and early in the morning for like East Coast people, crazy hours for people in Europe or Australia. And so I would be doing that, and people would be paying me, and literally I didn't have like a fee structure. So it was kind of like if they offered it to me and I had time, and it was made sense as far as the rate, as far as if there was other people waiting and they were offering me more. It was very much like I didn't have a rate per hour. It was like, okay, we want, a phone call a month with our sales team, and then we want a video call, and I would charge, okay, what do you want to pay? And they'd be like, and usually they just come up with a number already. They'd be like, we're willing to pay $1,000 a month, and these three things, and then what exactly they wanted from me. And so I just say yes or no, and like it was very not rate per hour or anything like that. So that's gone on for now probably 2 years or so. And just as of like a few weeks ago, I really tailed that down a lot. Like a year ago, I really brought that part of what I do online down a lot. The reason is because I was basically just selling my time. And I just don't have much time, and really that's the resource that I want to keep a hold of, and I'd rather not be just trading out for dollars at this moment. So really, even though I was making, that's a great way to make a living, and it's kind of nice, and I enjoyed every minute of helping other business owners. Like, my long-term goal is not to become a consultant. My long-term goal is to build, really good businesses and take brands that are down and out and really turn them around. And so I don't want to be known as a consultant. I want to be known as an entrepreneur and someone that knows how to flip companies and knows how to change a down and out company into a very successful brand. And so that's what I want to do long term. So I kind of really steered away from about a year ago, and then just recently have really phased it out and focused more on landscape business course. And that was the second part of what I was. So number one, people wanted access to me. Number two is landscapers. And so I figured, okay, can I somehow mesh these two things that I've noticed from my audience together? Number one was, like I said, people wanted access. Number two, landscapers are a lot on the podcast. So then that's when I created, about a year and a half ago, landscapebusinesscourse.com. And so I created the podcast, and then I created the course and started selling that for $247 online. And so that was the game changer as far as from a money standpoint. I decided, okay, the consulting is fine. It's great. I love it and all this good stuff. But this landscaping thing is definitely where my mojo's at right now, because I've been in it for a long time. I can really see very quickly where a company is at. I feel like I can go beyond just the surface level of a business because I know the nitty-gritty nuts and bolts of the industry, and I do it every single day in my day job. And so that was what I started doing, focusing more and more on landscapebusinesscourse.com. Obviously, in the past few months, that's like been my sole driving online, money driver is the course. And this is the problem, though, I kept running into, is the same issue, is that all the questions start pouring in from the podcast, and I put the videos on YouTube and Facebook, but the drive, like the 90% of the audience is still just the podcast. And so the questions come pouring in, right? So now the same problem as I had a Business Bootcamp podcast comes up now, and that is, how do you prioritize? How do you get to all these questions? I know the answers. I want to give them. I try to give them as much as I can. Some of them need a lot of detail, though. Some of them I need to get context on who's running the business, where the company's at financially, all of these other things. How can I do that? So what I've done just recently is really married the two aspects of what the audience wants together. Number one, access. Number two, landscaping. And what I've created on landscapebusinesscourse.com is what I call Pro Plus. So landscapebusinesscourse.com/pro, Plus, Pro Plus. You can go there and see exactly what I'm talking about. Basically, what it allows is landscapers, to get direct access to me. We have online webinars together each month. We have a hot seat where we look at someone within the member group. We look at their business. We tear apart their financials. We look at their website. We look at their marketing material. And as a group online, we really dissect the company. So we do that every month. They have 2 phone calls with me every year. We have a private Facebook group, and so really it's a small group, like 30 people, that get together and do this. It's right now only $179 a month, so it's not necessarily like a big money maker for me, but it allows people to get access to me, and it's affordable enough right now where people that are just starting out still get in and still see the value and still want to get involved. And so that is really what I'm focusing on right now. Is, like I said, I didn't force the money when I started out with Business Bootcamp podcast. I created the audience. I listened for what they were willing to pay for. So I'm telling you my story today, not so much just to brag or anything like that. I could care less about that. What I want to do this is, the reason I want to share the story is my thoughts behind it, so that you can develop the model the same way. And that is, take your idea, take your passion, what you want to share with the world, what you want to talk about, what you are passionate about and want to just share with everyone else, or get to know other people within that same mindset that enjoy that thing. If you want that, go share that. Go share it with the world. Go meet other people that are in that same mindset, that like the same music you do, likes the same fashion, likes the same sports, and wants to talk about it all day long. Don't force the money at the beginning. Even if you know long term you want to make a business out of it, don't force the money. Create the audience and then allow them to tell you what they're willing to give you money for. And so I talked about sponsors and affiliates and like third-party information, third-party companies that are wanting to kind of piggyback up. That's one way to make money. The next way really is selling products and information. So selling products like a course or software or your T-shirt, even like swag or different promotional products, T-shirts, merchandise, things like that. You can sell all of those and sell it to your audience. But like again, what I'm saying here is create the audience first. After determining your passion, determining what channel you're going to use, create the audience first and allow them to tell you how they want to give you money and what they're willing to pay for. That's how I would make a business online. It seems it's the most organic, it's the most fulfilling, and you don't have to feel like you're doing it for the money because you really aren't. You started it, you know what your intent was, you love it. Like literally, if I didn't have any more sponsors of the Business Bootcamp podcast, if I didn't have any more money coming from Landscape Business Course, I'd still be putting out content because I enjoy it. I love giving back, and I love the emails when people respond back after listening for a year, 2 years, 3. And this is what's happening now. 3, 4 years that people have been listening, and they respond back and the emails that tell how they turned their business around, how they made the changes that I suggested, and it really revolutionized their company. Those emails is what I live for. And so regardless of the money, I'd still be doing what I'm doing today. And if that changes, then then that's when you start seeing a company collapse, or you see people start, they start floundering, or they go after the money and they choose to do something crazy or dumb because they're going after the money instead of like the people that they're trying to reach and help and their audience. So focus on the audience, let the money come second. And like I said, I hope my story kind of gives you a direction of how you can think. And if you're out there like, hey, I want to create money online, I want to start a business, I want to generate another stream of income, because that's how I looked at it when I started making the money, like from the course and things, and even from the sponsors, is like, this is never going to replace my income, but it's going to be like supplemental. So it allows me to use that money to either give it away or to allow me to not have to take money out of my existing companies so that I can grow them. And so that's what this, the online business has allowed me to do, is work at night, answer people's questions at night, create podcasts at night, create videos at night, create course content and blog posts and things like that at night, and then during the day work on my company and grow that thing out, but not have to take any money out of that because the online stuff gives me enough income to live. And I live pretty simply, don't have a ton of expenses and stuff like that, so it makes it really easy for me to do that. And so I don't have to make a lot on the online business. I don't have to make a lot on the podcast or the course to get by and then, provide for my bills on a personal level, personal bills and things like that. So yeah, that's kind of the behind the scenes of how the course the course came about, how the podcast came about. And really, if you can think that way, I think you'll be more successful long term if you're starting an online business. Short term, there's quick ways to make money. There's quick ways to make an audience even. Controversial video posts, controversial blog headings and titles and pictures that are controversial, or stuff that's even made up, as we're seeing in the news. Like stuff that's made up even can like get all the clicks and the hits, which drives traffic and gets ad dollars, and gets eyeballs. So like that's all short-term game though. And if you listen to me for any length of time, you know that I'm all about the long-term game. The short-term game really isn't that interesting to me because that's not where you create legacy, and it's not where you create a brand. It's not where you create a real business. The businesses that are around for 100 years plus, they're the ones that have solid fundamentals and were built on a solid foundation. They were not built on short-term thinking and how do we make the best buck tomorrow. It was long-term thinking. And I think the best way to create a long-term business online is by starting with your audience first after you've determined your passion and the channel in which you will distribute and disseminate that information. You follow the passion, you follow the audience, and let the money follow. And then you go after those ways that the audience tells you they want to give you money. So that's my 2 cents. I hope that helps someone out there. I encourage you to start your online business. The internet isn't going away tomorrow. It's not going away in 5 years. It's going to be around. And it's a great way to spread the information and connect with people that are like-minded and love the things you love to talk about and share information about. So I encourage you, pick up your phone, and instead of doing a selfie on your Instagram, talk about something you're passionate about and start engaging within that audience, engaging within that industry. And I think it'll be fulfilling beyond just from a money standpoint, but going down the road, it will prove to be a profitable and valuable business for you. And just think, you can actually make money doing things that you love to do. So I hope that encourages someone. Again, this is Mike Andes. You've been listening to businessbootcamppodcast.com. If you are a landscaper, or if you just want to see my course in general, check out landscapebusinesscourse.com. The design is much, much better, and it's going to even get better to come. So thank you so much again. Mike Andes, signing off.